Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Happy Sunday to all of you. So whenever I do these Sunday videos, like whenever I pop them up on the channel, they're always informal, and I want to make them informal just to be able to just have a conversation, a quick chit chat with you guys to prepare for the week or just things that are on my mind, things like that. So I'm going to make this video probably around 10 minutes because I am holding it. So if you see the camera like shake, I'm holding it with my hand. And yeah, let's just talk. So you saw the title. I think I'm going to make this a series on my channel. Let me know if you guys are interested. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the dark side or the ugly side of money. I know a lot of times on the channel or just like overall when you go to like a financial advisor, if you're on social media, you're on CNBC, we talk about like the positive things about money, right? Like you should invest, you can build wealth, you can buy a house, you can pay off your debt, save for an emergency fund, all that good stuff. But rarely do we ever really have conversations about the dark side or the ugly side of money and why that should be your reason to do better with your finances. And I wanted to talk about that because something that happened to me this past week really triggered this video. So I went to the car dealership last week. I had to get an inspection. So if you are not a resident of the United States, all of us who live here have to get an emissions test and a state inspection on our vehicles. I think it's once a year for all of the states. If I'm wrong, please forgive me, but I believe it's all the states, you got to do that. So, every time I go to the dealer, I always am like bracing myself for a really, really expensive repair. Well, while I was there and while I was waiting for them to come back and tell me, how much things were going to cost, there was this lady that I was sitting really close to, and one of the reps came back and was really like loud. Usually you would hope that they would be very, like reserved and just come to you and just talk, whisper to you about what's going on with your vehicle and how much it'll cost. But this guy was like so loud, like, Miss so-and-so and so. And she was like, yes. He was like, okay, so yeah, this is what happened. This is how much just loud. We all could hear it. So like I said, he came over to her, and as he was telling her about how much her car was going to cost to get repaired, it was like crazy, like $2,000 or something. I immediately saw the fear that came over her face. I don't know if you guys ever had this experience where you can see someone's emotional state, like fear, immediately take hold. And it made me sad because she couldn't pay it. And she was an older lady there by herself and was like, well, how can I, get on a payment plan? And he was like, well, you can't really drive. Remember, she was getting an inspection. You can't really drive legally on the road, so you just got to do something today. And she couldn't. She really couldn't. So, of course, the dealer always has a credit card or something like that. Let me change my finger. Okay. My arm was getting a little tired. So the dealer always has like some payment plan or high interest type of debt that you can, agree to with them, and you can make payments and all of that. But it made me realize and reflect on a couple years ago, not a couple years ago, but I would say like in my mid 20s, I'm 38 if you didn't know, where I would dread going to the car dealership. Now, when I say dread it, I mean like my stomach was hurting. I would get sick. I would have so much anxiety over it because I knew if I went into this place, they were going to come back with some absorbent repair that I needed to get fixed that day. And it helped me to understand, okay, this is some of the ugly truths about money that we don't talk about. Like, how does it make you feel when you can't cover a car repair? And they're telling you, yeah, well, you won't pass inspection if you don't pay for this, so you need to do something about it. Just no compassion or anything like that. We're going to talk about that a little bit, so stay tuned. I was just like, these are the things that really should be the catalyst for us to do better, to prepare. So one of the things I wanted to just briefly touch on was preventative maintenance. Now, if you have never heard of this term, a lot of people in the car industry talks about this term. My husband uses it a lot when he talks about like our home. And basically preventative maintenance is the act of doing a lot of the small things to help lessen the blow when it comes to the big things. So if you clean out your gutters a couple of times a year, it takes about 30 minutes just to clean all those leaves and debris out of your gutters, if you're a homeowner, by the way. And what it does is that it prevents backup and blockages, which cost thousands of dollars. Same with your cars. If you get your oil changed, if you take care of the car, like the smaller things, then it'll help prevent the bigger things. And it made me think about it from a financial perspective. Like if we do a lot of the preventative maintenance with our budgets, like budgeting every month. I know it may be tedious. I'm telling you guys, corporations have budgets. I don't know if you knew that. Like, I'm just changing my hand. Corporations have budgets. if corporations are budgeting, you should be budgeting as well. Figure out something that will work for you. There's all types of like budgeting styles and all of that. So you don't have to worry about like, well, I don't fit into the zero-based budget. Okay, but there's the percentage method. I mean, there's so many things you can do. So don't give up after something doesn't work for you the first time. Try to find something that works. Find your groove, something that, goes along with your rhythm. But budgeting is preventative maintenance for life's emergencies, because there will come an emergency in your life. What about paying off your debt when you get large sums of money? I know many of you told me that you've gotten your tax refunds back and you were investing them, you were paying off debt, you were getting ahead. One of you even paid your rent through the entire year. Like, that is preventative maintenance. That is setting yourself up to get on the right side of money versus the dark side or the ugly side of money. But preventative maintenance with your finances, sinking funds. So this car, I have a car sinking fund. I don't know if you guys have a car sinking fund. If you have a car, you should have one. But it made me think of that lady, because every month I put a little bit into this car sinking fund, because with cars, something is going to happen. Like, you could take care of the car, even with the preventative maintenance, something is going to happen. So I know, for example, when I was at the dealer and I got the inspection, and everything was fine with the inspection, by the way. But he was like, well, late fall, you're going to have to get your brakes replaced. So I was like, okay, how much was that going to be? He was like giving me some general number. I said, okay, can you write this down? Like, I need you to write down how much you are telling me this estimate is going to cost, so I can do preventative maintenance. I can start saving for it. So he was like, okay, well, it's going to be $400 for the front brakes, $400 for the back. So I was like, okay, so that's about $800. So now I know it's February. If I do $100 a month, by the end of October, I can have everything that I need for this repair. Okay. Again, little by little, that's preventative maintenance. You're doing a little by little so that when it's time, when something happens, you'll have the money to cover it. Another thing about the dark side of money that I do not like is fees, right? And as an investor, that's passive income. Someone put up a post on Instagram. I think it was Anthony O'Neill. If you don't know him, he was a former co-host on the Dave Ramsey show. Well, he put up a post on Instagram, and if you're not following me over to Instagram, make sure you follow me. But he put up a post that said, your fees and the interest that you pay is someone else's passive income. So now as an investor, I'm on the receiving end. But let me tell you about the dark side of having to pay fees and higher interest. What it does is that it takes more of your money out of your pocket. I saw a documentary where it was talking about how it's expensive to be poor. And from someone who grew up that way, I do not come from money. From someone who grew up that way, where it was check cashing places. We didn't have a whole lot of banks, payday loans, things like that, where you could just go and get some access to some quick money while selling your soul for it. Because literally, if you go to a payday loan place, that's what you're doing. You're like selling your soul for, some money. And that's just being real, because again, I had that experience there. But fees, I had an issue that came up, right? And I was with a bank, and I had a checking account and a savings account. I didn't have enough money in the checking account portion, but I had thousands of dollars in the savings account portion. Well, an emergency came up and I had to use the card. And because I was like $10 over the limit, they charged me a overdraft fee. So I called and I said, I have all this money over in the savings account. And it was like, well, you didn't, click the button to say, if you go over your checking account balance, just transfer from your savings. So, we didn't do that for you. And I'm like, are you serious? I went over $10, which, I mean, yeah, an emergency happened, but I have thousands of dollars, literally thousands of dollars sitting over there, and he was no compassion, no understanding, no nothing. So the account was closed and I moved my money. But it let me know that banks are in business to make money off of you. So if you have balance transfers, this is the ugly side, okay? They are patient. Banks are very, very patient, okay? If they know, okay, they study this information, this data. They know most Americans will not pay off their debt. So they're going to continue to, charge absorbent amount of fees. And don't get me started on the interest rates. Have you tried to buy a car? So again, going back to the story about the lady in the dealership. So there was an option of, why don't you, instead of spending $2,000 to fix this older car, why don't you consider getting a newer car? Well, of course, the advisor, the tech advisor, wasn't telling her like, okay, the interest rates to get a vehicle is higher. The cars cost more money, and she's on a fixed income. So like, how could she do that? And so again, it's I don't. This is the dark side again. Is that they're in business to make money off of you. This is why I'm always talking about investing, because you are ownership. You have ownership in these companies, but again, going back to the interest rates, a car now it's about 7%, 8%. That's a lot of money for a car. And then, of course, they're stretching the car payments out to 10 years. I'm like, 10 years? When I was getting a car when I was in my early 20s, it was like 5 years was considered like too long. So I'm like, 10 years now for a car payment? But again, they know this, so they try to keep you enslaved in this debt for as long as possible. Another thing about, like the dark side or the dark truths of money is that it's harder. Okay, so let me tell you. So if you want to go from low income to middle class income, that's actually harder than if you are middle class income and you want to go to a higher class income. To change classes is so hard from low income. And so one of the things I try to tell people that, I talk to and meet with and things like that is you got to get out your comfort zone. And I know that's hard, especially if you are an introvert. Networking, be willing to change career fields, right? I know a lot of us are loyal. We've been with companies for zillions of years, but let me tell you, I've been watching a lot of, on TikTok, a lot of tech employees getting paid off, a lot of just regular employees getting paid off, which was interesting because I thought we were in like the great resignation like a year ago, but it's amazing how things turned. And people who have been employed 7 years, 16 years, 20 years, just getting laid off through an email. An email. I didn't even think you could do that, but an email. And so again, it's not so much about you don't want to do a good job, but you always want to make sure you are looking out for yourself, right? Because again, the dark side of money is that you're just a number on a page. You are literally a number in a spreadsheet. And if you don't put yourself first, every time you get paid, pay yourself first. Invest for your future self and protect your current self. Get that emergency fund up. If you're getting a refund, pay off that debt, keep it paid off or paid up, get paid up in your bills. Anything that's going to help move you on the right side of money, right? And then like the last thing is that was on my mind, again, of going back to the tech guys, like no compassion. And that's the ugly side of money. Like people who aren't in that situation don't have any compassion. Like now imagine if that was I was thinking about this with the tech. Like imagine if that was your grandmother, right? And how would you want somebody to talk to her, right? How would you want somebody to approach her? You wouldn't want it to be loud and in the open in the dealership among everybody else who's getting their car service. You would want someone to, have some tact, to have some decency, to be compassionate. And I feel like we don't have like the gray area anymore. It's just black or white. And sometimes certain things are not just black and white. I learned this as a parent. Sometimes it's a gray area. You need to hear out the situation and then you can make a judgment from there. Even in the families, talk about the ugly side, the dark side of money. Oh yeah, let somebody die. Let somebody win the lottery. The ugly side of family will come out. If you're at a job and you're up for a promotion or a raise or a position, the ugly side will come out. So I always tell people, put you first. Save for yourself. Protect yourself first. That's so, so, so important. I can't stress that enough. And so but the great thing about it is that we have a community here where we can help each other, motivate each other to get on the right side of things so that we can do whatever we want to do. That last video I put out, I talked about how you could build wealth starting from zero. That is getting on the right track. That is getting on the right side of money. Will it take a sacrifice? Yes. Will you have to get outside of your comfort zone? Yes. Will it require you to do things you may not want to do? Yes. But like I say, no risk, no reward, right? No risk, no reward. Use your time wisely to educate yourself, to learn, to, network, to meet different people. And I'm telling you, it'll put you on the path to achieving whatever your financial goals are. So leave me some comments down below. I know a lot of you probably have a lot to say about how we can go from the ugly or dark side of money to the positive, the light side of money to really help us and our families, do better, right? Because you see the recession. The government is not about us. It's about them. And we want to make things about us as much as that lies in us. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. My next video will be my portfolio update. No, that's later. My dividend Robinhood portfolio update. And then I'll have like a general one coming. But again, stay tuned for that. Check out some of my most recent videos. If you're new, subscribe, like, share. If you need any help or products, check out my description box below. Follow me over on Instagram and have a wonderful Sunday, guys. Okay? Bye-bye.